Radio Free Tatooine.
Radio Free Tatooine presents Galactic War Report, a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes podcast.
Boshuda, fellow Holotable hustlers, you're tuned in to Radio Free Tatooine's Galactic War Report, a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes podcast that's better than some and worse than others. I'm Sean, a.k.a. The Other Sean, and sitting across the Holotable from me is John, a.k.a. The Uncanny Mr. H.
Back at it again.
Back at it again. And again.
Every
Tonight we've got a good bit of info for you, some fun conversation. We're going to be talking about everybody's favorite topic, the Clone Parade. I know, John, it's your favorite part of the game, so...
It's one of the top 5 favorite songs we've done.
That's fair. We've only done like 4, though, haven't we?
Easy top 5.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that. We've got one of our guildmates, PicoBurrito. He's been on the program before. He's back with a whole lot of work he's put into the Clone Parade and how to not be the worst at it. And, I mean, let's face it, John. That's the info you and I need.
I am very curious if there is any nuggets of wisdom that can not make me terrible, because I have like a good light side team.
Yeah, I was going to say you only have like 7 or 8 light side characters unlocked, don't you?
And half of them are like Cup, Lobot.
We'll talk about that. We will do events and a little bit of who we're grinding, of course. But I do want to give a quick disclaimer. The feed. You hear us talking about this feed. It's changing. If you are subscribed to the Galactic War Report feed, you're all set. However, if you're getting our show through the Radio Free Tatooine network feed,
like I was,
you're going to want to change that. Were you as of today?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful.
I totally changed that.
So you're going to want to change that. Unsubscribe from that garbage. And if you want... subscribe to our garbage. We're managing 2 feeds for one show, and it's just a little silly. So basically, it's going to save us a click a week to do it this way, but it's going to make more sense. And that's the thing that really drives me is just cleaning it up so that we can kind of improve. You know what this is? This is our Unity upgrade. We're doing some work under the hood to make it work just beautifully forevermore. Just a flood of content is coming. We're also, speaking of that flood of content, we're also changing our YouTube channel a little bit. We've been posting episodes on there, but occasionally I goof up and post it a couple days late. I may have posted last week's today on YouTube because
for shame.
Thought it was already up. It wasn't. Whatever. I'm the worst. I know. But we've changed some of our tech that Watt Timber graciously provided us with, and we're able to make that hit YouTube a little faster now. So that's good news. This will be the first episode that actually shows up on YouTube in our new style. It's going to look different, too. I don't know if it's going to be better or worse. We'll play around with it. If you guys all hate it, let us know.
If you actually watch it, let us know.
If you're out there, let us know. So yeah, I think that's going to be very good news. Okay, now for a look at upcoming in-game events, courtesy of swgohevents.com. For a list of past, present, and future events in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, there's no better resource on the web than swgohevents.com. So this week is a little sparse. Last week was so good. This week...
Maybe too good.
Maybe. This week we're looking at, on the 18th, as this launches, we've got Admiral's Maneuver. We also have a Galactic Challenge on Tatooine that is starting with First Order versus Bounty Hunters. I know, John, you're probably going to shine on this one.
I may get a feat.
We'll see. We'll see.
I could use some feet.
Yeah, they're good, I hear. Dathomir Omega Battle is going to be on the 19th.
Very exciting.
A saucy one. The 20th brings us Contraband Cargo, as well as a new Territory War, number 139. Then on the 21st, brace yourself, another Omega Battle, this time on Coruscant. And what do we have? Nothing on the 22nd. So that's going to be an amazing day. But actually, that'll be...
There's not even...
Territory War will be going on.
But there's no battle going on.
Yeah.
I guess Territory War, they don't take that much time.
Nah. And then, let's see, on the 23rd, we'll have a Home 1. And on the 24th, another Territory War, as they always come into. No more, no less. Update this week. Admiral Piet has hit Chromium. So... buy him up, boys. Buy him up.
Not in Chromium.
Or he's also in shipments, too.
Enjoy those Qui-Gon Jinn shards, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll see him farmable soon, I'm sure, and we'll see...
I hope so, because I got some work cut out for me.
Yeah. Mon Mothma's got to be hot on his heels.
I'm Mothma.
Mm-hmm. What else do we have? In the new update, we also have the new Galactic Challenge. First Order versus Bounty Hunters on Tatooine. I don't know. I haven't looked at the conditions and whatnot yet. But
did they have it in that update?
Well, I was going to say we did Tatooine before, right? And it had like the sandstorm.
Oh, that's right.
Damage over time.
It was the Darude battle.
Yeah, it's a...
I'm sorry, guys. That's the end of the show. I can't do anything funnier than that. That's peak comedy for this show.
So you're done. Let's bring on Pico.
I'll be on mute the rest of the time.
He'll finish the job. So we had a recent thing come to light in our guild that Pico and John have something in common, which is the two most powerful Gar Saxons in the guild belong to these two.
We are now at this point the Vegeta and Goku of the guild.
I'm gonna let Pico come on and tell the story of how he got to be the Black Sun Heroes #1 Gar Saxon. PicoBurrito, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, guys. First, before we get into the Pico thing, my nerd foo is pretty deep, but John, I have no idea what that reference just was that you just gave.
Darude?
Yeah. So no, not the Darude, the Goku and whatever. That's the
Sir, I declare your nerd foo to be super weak if you don't get the Goku and Vegeta reference.
I got the Goku piece, but I don't know enough on that corner of the world. But I guess
Saiyans.
Look, you can feel better about knowing that, and I'll feel better about having a Gear 13 relic for Gar Saxon, which makes my Gar Saxon the most powerful Gar Saxon.
Like power level over 9,000.
Yeah, it's an unzated relic 4, which I still don't understand. Yeah, so the thing is that there is no other place on the planet where you can feel better about not knowing who Vegeta is and for having a relic Gar Saxon. This is the one instance you can have where that's going to get you anything. Yeah, we discovered today, while somebody else was looking at some Gar Saxon data inexplicably, that despite my Gear 12.3 Zeta Gar Saxon that Pico's,
whom you love dearly,
like a kid that you knew who was your friend when you were younger.
Yeah.
But when you really go back and look at what your friend was like, like that kid kind of sucked.
Is this our story of you and me meeting in college?
No, that's different. That's very different. That was me knowing you played Dungeons and Dragons by looking at you.
Right. This guy rolls.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Gar Saxon, he's very good. I have made multiple pleas for him to be better, or be best, if you will. Yeah, no, and so I am, my own hypocrisy has been brought to light. Unfortunately, I do not have the most powerful Gar Saxon.
Wow.
So thank you for that, Pico.
My goal was not to be the most powerful Gar Saxon. I wanted a powerful gauntlet. That was really what I was trying to drive towards.
Well, I mean,
means to an end is really what it came down to in that case. So,
is your Spirit Commando also Relic 4?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
John is dying inside.
That hurts a lot.
It hurt you a lot, huh?
Just so everyone knows, I literally did these like the 2 weeks leading up to them announcing the next round of Galactic Legends. So that was just a bunch of gear that I just threw out in the world that is never coming back to help me gear the rest of these characters up. So
yeah, that's why mine aren't Relic, because I was apparently just a couple weeks behind where you were thinking. Yeah. Because I had them on my favorites when they announced Super Sheev. So they made a quick exit, but they'll be back. When there's Relic 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
What are they going to come up with after Relics, right? Like we had.
Don't ask this, John. You don't want to know what's next.
13. Now we got 7 of those. What's next?
Relic abilities.
Oh, yeah.
Get them to
it's a Relic an individual ability?
Yeah. Or they're going to give you a special ability when you're 7, and then you get super extra move.
Yeah. Ultimates. Turns everyone into a Galactic Legend.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be their ability, was turn everybody into a vegetable. I don't know.
If everyone is a Galactic Legend, no one could be on a team with one another.
It's just a 1v1 fighter.
Yeah.
Parry block strike.
Yeah. Championship.
So we didn't bring you here just to rub it in about your
that was part of my agreeing to do this. Yeah,
it was fortuitous that this came to light today.
I am sorry that this is your show now. You now have to put the show on. It's
all these feed changes and everything. This is all because we were going to hand it to you tonight.
You're the captain now. Well, why don't you come tell us about the Clone Parade? Because that is why we brought you in here, to do some territory mastery.
Territory mastery!
Really kind of where this started was on the Dark Side territory battle, where I was trying to make a concerted effort to max out all of the waves there. And what I did is I sat down and I started looking at I started tracking what I was doing month over month. And I know that's probably overkill for a lot of people, but I put together a spreadsheet. These are the teams that I use. This is how I landed. And what I started to notice is when I started looking at a couple of key pieces, and we'll talk about that, I started to see some better success on the dark side. And I wanted to see if I could maybe take that and translate it into light side territory battle. Because we all know kind of the philosophy there is you just deploy and you move on to the next phase. And everyone goes over 4, and we all complain it's all RNG. It's RNG. It's RNG. There's nothing we can do about it. And I sat down and at the same time, I started trying to build some of these pieces out and put a plan together 3 months ago, and it worked well. And then last month, I put a plan together, and it went terrible, and I kind of threw it away, and I didn't track anything. And this month, I decided to, the Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, I decided to stick to the plan when I got punched in the mouth. And I kind of came up with 6 kind of things we were talking about in the guild today. And the one, and Sean, you and I talked about this when Dark Side Territory Battle came out. And I think the biggest piece is there's too much focus on going 4 for 4 or being able to complete every wave across the individual phases. And really what your goal should be, if you're not perfect right now, and most of us aren't, your goal shouldn't be to go 4 for 4 across every wave. It's to pick up one more wave on every kind of block of a day and a half. So if you're going, maybe 4 for 4 with a Ray team and everybody else is 1 for 4, it's not to get everyone 2 for 4. It's I want to go 4 for 4, 2 for 4, 1 for 4, 1 for 4. And part of the reason for that is if you just look at the math behind it, if everyone in Black Sun Heroes could pick up one more wave on a phase, on a 3-day phase, that's about 15 million more guild points. That actually adds up very, very quickly. And frankly, that one more wave is much more achievable than trying to figure out how I can make all of these teams great to get there.
Sure.
So that back to that idea of just get better in one small little incremental step.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, one, and I'm a big fan of tracking these things. I like building out the spreadsheets and kind of tracking all this information. But one, you can actually see where that gain is happening. So that's kind of the first thing that I look at around this.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
With the first one, and I never bothered looking. So if I go, the difference from 0 phase to 1 phase is the same amount of points as going from 1 to 2.
Correct.
So having 2 battles go 1 for 1 is the same as having 1 go 2 for 4 and 1 going 0 for 4.
Correct, with an exception. And the exception to that is there are certain missions that are worth collectively more points. So basically, as an example, we're in the middle zone 2 right now, where there's a Galactic War team, Padme-led Galactic Republic team, and there is the Ahsoka and General Skywalker mission. Yeah. Those are both there. The Ahsoka or the Padme mission is worth 1.3 million if you go 4 for 4. The General Skywalker is worth 1.7, and each wave is worth 1/4 of that total. So
sure. With your normal combat mission though, they're equal.
Correct. Absolutely.
So just to figure this out in your head, if you have a finite number of units and battles, and you can make one really good team that still might only go 3 for 4, or you can mix it up and go 1 for 4 in 4 different combat missions, that earns you a net 300,000 points more.
Correct. Just transitioning from 0 for 4 to 1 to 4 is a 300,000 net point gain for an individual in that case.
But that's consistent with most phases.
Absolutely.
Or missions.
It's consistent across all the waves in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's this idea of kind of little incremental gains from that perspective. Now, how do you go about building those incremental gains is you got to sit down and figure out, at first and foremost, what do you need to build those teams? All right. And this gets back to, in the Clone Wars, typically for each 18-hour block of time, you need 2 Jedi teams. You need 2 just generic light side teams. Just think about it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
For many people, that's going to be, Rey and the Rebros as part of that, or something similar. We're all, folks that have that are going to go 4 for 4, but starting to be able to build these teams around this concept. And what I'm a big fan of, and this gets back to, I'm trying to consistently build those teams that I use week in, week out. So I sit down and again, this is back to, I got this spreadsheet and I've got phase 1 and I've got the teams that I want to use. And on phase 2, these are the teams that I want to use. And part of that is so I can understand if I'm getting better with it. Did relics have an impact? Did remodding have an impact on it? And 2, if I have to make a variation, like on my Rey team in phase 1, I had to platoon Holdo, so I changed it up. I went 3 for 4, and I just have an idea what that team can do now from that perspective. But the idea is high level, figure out what those teams are going to be. Now, not everyone can have Shock T on their team because we have to platoon in some of those cases, so you need a little bit of flexibility. On the dark side, I purposely never use Revan or Malak because I know I can typically go 3 for 4 with another team, and there are other people in the guild that their Revan and Malak are they're part of one of their 3 best teams. So I know someone else can be successful if I use something else.
So, I don't even have them.
Right.
But it's back to, if you're putting in a little bit of work ahead of time to understand what those teams are, one, you're consistently using the team. So as we talk about this whole kind of idea of mechanics coming up in a moment, you're familiar with what's going on. When the battle goes south, you're more familiar with the tools available for you to get things back on path than if, I used Luke, Qui-Gon and 3 Galactic Republic guys for one battle, and the next one I was able to use Luke and General Skywalker and maybe Ahsoka, because again, how they interact with each other differs. And you got a very small window and things go south and we all panic and how do I fix this? And it breaks down from that perspective. So putting some time in to figure out what those teams are pretty important. And then on top of that is, again, as you look at that, I just want to get one rank better. Focus on one team to get better along with that. Now, for a lot of people, that was go get Jedi Luke. Jedi Luke had a massive impact for a lot of people from that perspective and made a lot of really bad Jedi teams better. Mm-hmm. But in that fixes it a lot of this. And I think that's the other piece. And I'm going to go off. I apologize. I'm going to go off on a tangent right now. I know that the thought process is light side territory battle was poorly implemented with zero plan from CG. And I think what we're seeing over the last 6 months is there was a plan. They knew that these very powerful characters were coming along, and they still wanted the content to be difficult. We're scoring better because Luke's and Rey's, and we're going to get light side Luke in those pieces. And I think that helps in a lot of these cases. But at the same time, it kind of leads to the third point. We all know that remodding sucks. Mm-hmm. But my view, being bad at territory battles sucks more. And people need to start taking the time to remod to go into these fights. And I know that's not fun.
No,
I mean, it's not fun for anyone. And John, you're making the face right now that is telling me
it's causing me physical pain.
Yeah, but and this came up and I have a very large GP, and it's clear I do spend a little bit on the game, but I got lucky. I did a I got a $50 gift card for my birthday. I threw it into buying some crystals, and I did the Mon Mothma slot machine and pulled the 330. So I was able to build out a Mon Mothma team coming into this territory battle, and I was all excited. And they're all Relic 4, and they're all built. You know, it's Mon Mothma, it's Kara, it's Pow with the Zeta, it's Hoth Rebel Soldier, and it's Wedge. It's like the kit that everyone talks about. And in the first wave, they were just wiped off the map, and it was crushing. Mm-hmm. And I sat down and I took a look at what was in place, and I decided, let's see what happens the next time if I sacrifice all of my offensive capabilities and I basically just build a bunch of heavy hit point characters. Because the big thing with them is they get 8% of that total hit point pool. They dump it onto everyone else. So I in most cases, doubled the hit points on a lot of those characters. Because like the Wedges and the Pows, their base hit points are so low. Well, what do you know? The next day, that first barrage comes through. I lose one character. Mon Mothma reses them. And I finish wave 4 at full hit point and protection at that point. And that's where, and when you start looking at the stats, my hit points doubled, so I'm more survivable. My offensive numbers dropped maybe 10% in some cases. So I wasn't taking a big offensive hit to do that, but I was making my characters more survivable.
And you're not going to use a Mon Mothma team in Arena anyways.
Nope.
You know, like that's just a much wiser way to look at that team, I think.
I think territory battles in general would favor survivability more than offense. In general,
and I think that's the case. That making them tougher to battle, and I think the other piece to it is understanding that a number of the units, you're going to do the same damage to them if you have an offensive rating of 1 versus an offensive rating of 9,000, because those stackable units, it doesn't matter. I just have to land my attack, and I'm going to start tearing them down. And that gets into, if I can take out the 2 stacks of B1s and the B2, all of a sudden, instead of it being 6 on 5, it's now 5 on 3, and you're back to the advantage. And a lot of the enemies in the light side territory battle don't actually attack. Like think about the Kalani and the tactical droids or the Super B1 commando droids. They don't really attack. They buff the rest of the team. So you clear off those attackers, and all of a sudden, now I've just got a bunch of characters that are like buffing each other back and forth, and they're not doing any damage back, and you can recover. Mm-hmm. And I think that, and trust me, I am not the only person that's come up with this idea. I think if you start looking into Reddit, and if you're going to look at Reddit and you're going to read the threads, you got to read like every third message, because the first 3 are this sucks and it's terrible, and then someone will like, no, this is what you need to do to get better at this. And I think we're finding, and there were a couple other people in Black Sun Heroes who tried to move their mobs around to make themselves tougher, and they're making it through some of these waves. My Jedi Knight Luke team, I doubled the hit points on Old Ben, and what do you know, Old Ben actually survived the Droideka attack. And I was able to, again, keep things moving forward in that case. And when it comes to remodding, it's templates. I'm a big fan of Brand Ivory to kind of build out what those teams need to look like. So then I built templates, and it's time consuming, but a little bit of preparation up on the front side kind of fixes it on the back side is where that sits. So I think, a couple of other points, the difficulty, at least my experience is the difficulty between waves is not linear. 1 is not the easiest, 4 is not the hardest. I think what we see like in Darkside or we've seen historically, I think 1 is always the hardest wave because you've got to get started.
You got to get the turn meter advantage.
Right. Yeah. They come in with a big advantage, and you don't have a chance to get, your shtick rolling. I think 1's usually the hardest, personally.
Yeah. But I think once you get through 1, I think a lot of people would be surprised that once they get through 1, 2 and 3 fall off pretty quick. 4 is usually pretty hard, and some of it is if you get Grievous in phase 3, that's tough. I don't care who you're facing. That's a tough wave to get to. But most of the time, if you can get through 1, all of a sudden you're now looking at 2 for 4. That's where that kind of just one phase farther kind of gets along.
Yeah,
I think to that point though, you need to start. What happens in phase 1 is understanding the mechanics of what happens in that, and some of this. Look, I won't take credit for this. This came out of the SWGOH events Discord server where a lot of this is, but the Droideka is a problem for everyone. And there was someone there talking about, Droideka, if it's fast enough, it's going to roll up, it's going to go into the ball. And then when it's in damage immunity, it gets 3 times the speed. So now all of a sudden it's building up stacks and it's going to attack really quick. If you can get damage immunity off of it, and there's a lot of tools to do that, all of a sudden now it loses the stacks. It takes longer for it to attack, and you can typically live through that attack at that point. So a lot of it is managing those aspects of it. And, certain teams handle different enemies better. Like I think a B2 attack on a Jedi Knight Revan team is a death sentence. You put buff block on that entire team. Yoda can't spread buffs, and everyone dies very, very quickly.
Yep.
But if a Droideka pops up and it takes someone out, as long as it's not Jolie, you can recover from that because I can res out of that situation. Or Survivor can pop off in that case to get around. So if I'm Revan, I try and take out the B2s as fast as possible. But if I'm Jedi Knight Luke or Gas, I want the Droideka gone because I can't res. And especially in the case of like the Gaz and Ahsoka mission, let the B2s keep attacking because Gas just counterattacks and he just kills them. They kill them on their own. And a lot of it comes down to it's not as simple as put a team in and run my territory war or my arena kind of progression of how you attack on things. It's understanding the enemies that you're facing, and that may change in a lot of those cases.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem I have, that I don't take the time to understand what the different enemies do, right? Like in the dark side one, I have a basic idea of what the different clones do, more or less, But when you told me that the tactical droid didn't really attack much, that's news to me. It's like So I think that, at least for me, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that not having at least on at top of mind what each of those guys do. Like, I see a Magna Guard, I know what he's going to do. B2, I know what he's going to do, at least basically, right? But the Kalani, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and John, I've heard you mention this before. Part of the problem is because this only runs once a month, and if you only get one wave, you don't get a lot of opportunity to find out what those things do.
Yeah.
Right. There's no repetition on a lot of the stuff.
Not a lot of reflection on what you could do better, because by the next time you get a chance,
I'm a big dum-dum. I don't remember things that long.
But,
right.
But also at the same time, it's the the reaction for a lot of the community, and frankly, this was me last month where I said some very not nice things about kind of the game mode. I was really frustrated, but I think as a community, we do a very bad job of this is terrible. It sucks. Okay, let me figure out. Let's talk about what actually did work or what we saw as part of that, so we can get better. And I think a great example of that is Sean, I saw you beat the assault battle today.
Yes, tier 3.
Yeah.
Challenge tier 3. Yeah.
And there was a conversation going on in our Discord, and the big thing on 3 is you're going to lose somebody. Like someone's going to die. How do you manage that? So I was talking about I bring Jolie, but he doesn't get any of the advantages for Jedi Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Cade Skywalker turned around. I was he's like, no, you bring Jedi Knight Anakin in because when someone goes into yellow, he immediately stops the other team from moving because he gets his bonus turn, and then he gets to use the Luke call attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a light bulb went off. I'm like, that's a great thing. Like, need to do more of exchange of kind of information of what people are seeing, so that everyone can get a little bit better with these things.
And even out of that conversation, I shared in the Dath chat before the show, I talked about my way of getting there, and someone was like, well, I've basically got that team, and they did it a little bit differently, but he messaged me right before we went on and said, thanks, I got that. That's awesome. So, yeah it's, it is. And that was me with a Gear 9 Jedi Knight Luke. So, which was entirely because I understood some concepts about him that I didn't beforehand.
Well, I think that's something that our guild does a pretty good job with. I mean, we all have our moments, but when something's hard, saying, oh man, this is really hard, and we'll go, yeah, that sucks. Trying to figure out why, like what's going wrong, instead of just, oh man, they got too much speed. I mean, it's not always the problem. There's it can be beat, right? They don't put out impossible stuff generally. But even like when I was having trouble with the gas event initially, well, a year ago at this point, I had people in the guild really working to help me try and figure out why I couldn't get it to work. And even though I didn't get it that time, I knew what I needed to do right before I went into it next time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the problem also is there's 191 characters in the game right now.
I refuse to believe that.
Yeah. It's hard to remember what they all do. And a perfect example of, and I heard someone mention this the other day, that Jolie reduces his cooldowns if he lands an attack with his basic.
I couldn't have told you that.
I forgot that was a part of his kit. So
I ran him in Arena for 6 months, and I couldn't have told you that.
Yeah, because the whole thing in Arena is that you had you didn't have to make it through 4 waves. You needed to get the other 5 guys dead. Well, now Droideka takes out your tank right off the bat. So Jolie reses him. So now instead of swapping between Revan and Grandmaster Yoda to give Grandmaster Yoda all the turns, because that was the Arena method of doing this.
Sure.
No. You want to keep calling Jolie to assist so that he gets that res back as quickly as possible.
He's going to need it again.
You're going to have to use it again.
Yeah.
There's a term that I'm familiar with it through high-level Pathfinder games and 3rd edition D&D called Rocket Tag, where there comes a point where it's not a matter of how good you are as a character, it's a matter of how fast you kill something.
Yeah.
And that's what Arena is. Arena is Rocket Tag.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I need to blow you up before you blow me up. That's not what Territory Battle is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when you start looking at it, and this is what I'm finding, is those Territory War and Grand Arena teams that we use, Padme and Pals, Gas 501st or Shock T 501st, they're great teams in that mode. But if you start breaking those teams up to be successful in other ways, it's actually better in the long run. In an example, so again, I mentioned today we've got a Galactic Republic mission, and most people want to walk into that with Padme and Pals. All right, I'm going to put in Ahsoka, Jedi and Anakin, 3PO, and Kenobi in that case. What I've started to do is I take Padme and the 501st because they can get me 2 or 4 waves. All right. I then take Gas and Ahsoka, and I run them in the duo mission, which a lot of people don't do because they think I can't do it. It's a hard mission, but that's one of those that each wave is worth more points in the long run, and you can likely get 2 of 4 in that. So now you're picking up what is that? That's roughly, I think it's like 800,000 points.
You're close to a 3 for 4, effectively.
Yeah. And you're starting to pick up points from that perspective, and it's by moving those things around. And I saw someone post the other day that we build this Jedi Knight Revan team as an example, but they're like, no, I put Revan with Luke, so I put Revan, Grandmaster Yoda, and Luke all together. Now Revan doesn't get the Luke bonuses, but my problem with like the Luke teams are I always lose a character in the first wave because of Droideka or the spies. Well, now I've got Savior, which keeps one of those characters up. And then again, that interrupts a turn piece and things get to run forward. So it's kind of mixing and matching those parts. But I think a really important piece to this is pick a team, always play that team if you can. So you start to understand all these little idiosyncrasies around what that team does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, it comes to the problem, though, with the frequency. Right, like I can look at it on paper, but I don't have a place to be able to mess with it, And that might be where the kind of thing like the Galactic Challenges are actually really good for, because it's not going to be ideal. It's not the same mechanics, but at least you can get a feel maybe for what the teams are against harder teams.
Yeah.
It's a sandboxy kind of environment.
Sure.
And again, because I love Excel spreadsheets, I think a lot of this is I track these month over month. I record how many waves I got against how many were there, and I'll put notes in place. It was a lot of kind of what I figured out on the dark side for using a Vader Empire team of the right mix. It was, if I use IPD, this was my result. The next wave, I made a change, and you start to kind of get an understanding where those, and I'll put those notes into place. So at minimum, I just scan through that to remember, like, oh yeah, always call Jolie. I don't have to remember it month over month, and I'm not going to run that team in any other case, but it helps me be successful. I think you get borderline of how much time do I want to spend in a mobile game is part of that, and I get that aspect of it. But for me, because I love this mode, I love the problem solving of it. I think that's worth the time in a lot of in those cases. So.
I think to that point, though, I mean, and I do this myself. Like it is a mobile game, but at the level at which we're playing, it requires more attention than a mobile game does. Yeah. Right? Like I'll go to my territory battles and be like, all right, Padme team going in. Welp, got 0 out of 4 that time. Oh dang. Yeah. And that's just, brush my hands off and go about my day. Because I did it while I was pooping at 2 p.m. There wasn't an intent with it, if you will. And sometimes it's if the day gets away from you, all of a sudden, oh man, I got to do my territory battles, and that's going to happen. Yeah. I think that it's absolutely true that it's an easy thing to just do and not do right.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the big problem, and again, I'm a long time MMO player. I was an original EverQuest was kind of where I started, and not so much in WoW, but that was back in the message board days. And message boards were great ways to disseminate lots of information because you could write.
Unlike a podcast.
But now everyone's switched over to Discord, and Discord's awesome because it does a lot of great things. But one thing Discord does not do, it is not a great way to long form share information. Because I wrote these 6 points up, and as you guys can probably, I talk a lot. When I write, I put a lot of words on the page. People get halfway through the things that I write, and they're like, I don't have time for this shit, and they go somewhere else. Or it scrolls so far out of the buffer in Discord that pinned messages don't work.
Right.
And I think a lot of really good information is out there, but it's lost. There was somebody in the guild recently who it was around the territory piece, and someone was like asking me, oh, I posted the video of my Mon Mothma piece to the SWGOH events Discord piece, and everyone was like, hey, there's this guy who's posted this really great video, and it's got the same name. I'm like, yeah, scroll up like 14 posts where I posted it here as well. Like, I don't have time to scroll up. Like, that's the problem with Discord is that we lose a lot of information from that side as well.
Yeah. It's all very temporary.
Yeah.
Much like life, though, Sean.
Wow.
It is fleeting.
Life is basically Discord, right?
Discord runs far too well for that to work.
Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway. I would love it if people would stop just immediately thinking that light side territory battle is crap. There are parts of it that are crap. I think there are some garbage mechanics. There's some challenge, and they're challenging or garbage depending on how you look at it. But I think the tools are starting to come in place with some new character releases, and I think that as people are starting to try and crack the code instead of complain, I think we're figuring out ways that we can get better at this game mode. It's a puzzle.
I should get some of those tools probably. Like one.
You need a light side character. I
have a pretty passable Padme team and a respectable Shock T clone team.
So if you have a Shock T, so you should be able to do that flip of Padme and the clones and Ahsoka and Gas tomorrow.
Padme and the clones. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to give it a try. I've done it previously. I remember when Padme first came out, I did that with something before ARC Trooper released or right around. And I enjoyed it, but then never did it again.
But by the way, so you don't do it and hurt us. Also remember, tomorrow is the cam mission, so please don't actually use your clones on that Padme team. As I said that, like that would actually be very bad if you were to do the Padme and clones and then not be able to do the cam mission.
Oh, I can't do the cam mission anyway.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's not what we do here. Galactic War Report is the cam mission.
I really just need to get my gas figured out. But I need the gear for Super Sheev.
Yeah. Those Galactic Legends threw a monkey wrench in everything.
Oh man, I would have that relic Gar Saxon right behind you, buddy. I was talking to somebody on our Discord the other day about ships, and I was confused for a minute because I thought he was talking about a different game, but. He's like, oh yeah, your malevolence. Once you got 7-star, you'll be doing great. And I was like, I have 0 of 145 shards for malevolence. I have nothing. I don't have the vulture droid bomber. I got nothing.
So the malevolence is not what has been holding you back.
Yeah.
No. It's just like he made the assumption that I had been working on that, and that was why I would. And no, I use my guild currency for gear. That's the only way I can keep up in any semblance.
Yeah.
I might just have to suck it up. I just don't want to for gas.
It's hard to think that I recently relicked old DACA. Like right before these things were announced. Yeah. I cannot imagine knowing that these Galactic Legends were coming and relicking old DACA.
I feel fairly certain that I Zated my Stormtrooper after we found out.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Where is my gas? He's at 50. I got 45 shards to go still. That's
well, John. We're getting into a whole different conversation here as you're analyzing your roster, and I think this would be a decent opportunity to ask you who you're grinding.
It's not Galactic or General Skywalker, I can tell you that. I'm full steam ahead on Super Sheev, which will definitely help with my Clone Parade performance. This last week, I feel like the week before, cranking it out. The weeks before that, I would just bang right on it. Yeah. This last week has been a slog of gear. It has been brutal. It's all these, only fleet energy. You need like 175 of them 6 times for 10 pieces of gear. Yeah. And you grind, you dump 400 energy on it and you get 2. It's tough. I got my Count Dooku up to gear 13 and he's relic 2 now. Problem is, since I have to grind Sith Marauder, that means that I can't spend any more energy on signal data. So,
man, really?
I am regrettably still stuck at Relic 2 with Count Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he hasn't moved. Sidious is at gear 12 and some change because he's the one I'm gearing actively at the moment. Darth Maul, I got him to 7 stars because he wasn't quite there last week. He's at gear 12. He's going to be sitting waiting for gear until I'm done with Sidious probably.
Mm-hmm.
Marauder, I had him at 2 out of 100 last week. I'm at 52 out of 100 right now.
Mm-hmm.
He can't be gear 12. Why do I have gear 12 written down? That's not possible.
He's not Hux.
Gear 11.
Yeah.
Change my note. Yeah. So, my TIE bomber, slow because I just don't have energy to throw at it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like personally or in game. It's at 65 out of 80. I was at 50 out of 80 last week. So it's a snail's progress this week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, getting Dooku to 13 and then putting some pieces on Sidious, and that's about it.
That's what you got.
And I don't feel great,
mm-hmm.
but I feel like I was due for a down week because I was kind of on a bit of a roll there.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
We'll skip around a little bit. I'll toss the ball to Pico. Who you grinding, bud?
So I'm in a unique situation with shards that I am not grinding anyone at this point.
I wasn't before. It's great.
Yeah. You guys keep saying Piet. I can't read that name without saying Pettit. So I hate Andy Pettit. I hate Admiral Piet.
I just thought you read French and you're like, he's petite. He's a little admiral.
His portrait is it's like zoomed out a little or something. I don't know.
Admiral Petite, eh?
I do have him, or I did see some shards in the shard shop as we kicked this off, so I picked up 8 shards on that for him. So that'll be my next piece that I'm grinding. As we look at gear, I'm farming a bunch of stuff to hold on to. I am 10 of 10 on the Grandmaster Luke tunes right now because I again won the lottery on Mon Mothma, which then allowed me to use arena shards for Chupio, which worked out great. So I'm trying to also kind of in parallel build for Super Sheep. But I'm worried about, the Leias and the Farm Boy Lukes and all those other pieces. So I'm building all the pieces on those tunes just to know that I may dump it somewhere else. But I'm in the same boat. All of my ship energy is going to just filling endless Mark 12 Tech fusion furnaces.
Mm-hmm.
So you bother learning their names. I don't give them that respect.
Stupid purple things.
I only know complaining about it in Guild the other day. That was really what it was. So.
Oh, you want to informed complain? That doesn't count.
Yeah. Closing in on finishing up TIE Bomber so I can start this super awesome Empire ship piece. So I'm at 65 of 100.
Keep you posted. That is relevant to my interests.
I really think that's going to be able to start pulling some waves in dark side territory battle. Like that, I'm excited about that.
Well, I got to tell you, my finalizer has not exactly lit the world on fire as hoped. Not anticipated, but hoped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need another tank because the same thing on the territory stuff. I always platoon my Houndstooth because I can get some waves. Well, I think other people can use it, so I'm looking forward to that. My most recent Zeta was the second one or both of them on Mon Mothma. I earned one today. I am doing the stupid hoarding of Zetas, which is the worst thing in the world. I hate that more than anything.
Really?
I just got done with that with saving for General Skywalker and Jedi Knight Luke. Yeah. And man, let me tell you, just dumping all those Zetas felt very good.
I legitimately forget that I have them.
Yeah, I love spending them. At any point in time, I can tell you the next 4 characters that are getting Zetas. So I that's one of my other spreadsheets is I track when I'm going to get them. For me, it's Christmas morning.
Oh yeah.
And I'm holding on to them for the next 6 weeks. Or the next 6 weeks. It's going to be miserable. So
I still feel so good that skipping all the Revens has saved me roughly 18 Zetas. Like no joke.
Yeah.
Between their team and them themselves, like. I've got so many. That's got to be just where I have so many Zetas on random characters.
Well, you also don't have a full Relic Phoenix squad that I have that does stuff these days.
I mean, I got Sabine with a Zeta on her. Waiting for her Mandalorian Season 2 rework.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm sitting, so.
That's good. What about you, Sean? Who you grinding up on?
Really changed a little bit here now that I've unlocked Jedi Knight Luke and Sky Guy. I've got Anakin up to 50 out of 100 now. And I'm gonna
passed me up.
I'm gonna run out of currency very soon. I'll have enough to get him up to like 60 or 65. But we've got a territory battle that'll be ending, so I guess I can push him a little further. The old backpack sitting there at 6 out of 30. He's not getting much progress at all. Mon Mothma is on deck, of course. For gear, I'm working 100% on Sky Guy first. He's been stuck at a Chirotech bottleneck, and then I got that done, and now he's at another Chirotech bottleneck. So
it's bottlenecks all the way up, man.
We're going as fast as we can, and it's not that fast. And then Jedi Knight Luke also needing a lot of the same stuff. And then outside of that, it's the Galactic Legend Luke requirements, which the only way I can really do that is the other two guys need a bunch of Chirotech, and these other schmucks need stuff you can get with ship currency. So that very same stuff that Pico was just complaining about, I need some of that I'm working. Relics, I've got R2 that I'm working on right now. You got to take him to 7, which is, oh God, I hate going to Relic 7 so much, but it's what you got to do.
It's pretty bad.
It's cruel. For ships, I am at 83 out of 100 for the old BLT Galactic Republic Y-Wing.
That's a tasty sandwich. It's been cooking for a while.
The Rebel Y-Wing is just unlocked it, so I'm at 3 out of 65 to get up to 5 stars. Most recent Zeta was all of Gas's Zetas. Next, maybe Backpack, maybe Mon Mothma. I don't know exactly. I think it's looking more like Backpack because he's so much fun. And then my grumpy old Luke report. I got old Ben stuck at gear 12. There hasn't been progress on that fool since these things came out. Jedi Training Ray is done. 3PO's done. Chewie's done. Mon Mothma, I mentioned. Backpack. Jedi Knight Luke's stuck at gear 9. That's ow. Han Solo's at gear 12. He's actually very close to being 13.
I'm surprised you don't have a gear 13 Han Solo already.
My goodness, he was one of my first priorities to get to gear 13. But
that's what I thought.
Got all of the pieces and made a just game time decision to take Jedi Training Ray to gear 13 instead.
Probably a good choice.
Which, her being Relic 7 is required for 2 Galactic Legends now, so I don't regret that at all. But
I'll allow it.
Yeah, so Han will be gear 13, I would say soon, but the only thing he's missing is the Chirotech, and that's going to General Skywalker, because he's arena bound. That's all we've got for you this week. It may not be the best advice, but at least we didn't recommend trying to compete with these two Gar Saxons.
It is folly.
Galactic War Report is brought to you by Radio Free Tatooine and by our Patreon supporters. Learn how to become one and get access to our Discord server at patreon.com/Radio Free Tatooine. As always, big thanks go out to our Sandcrawler level supporters, CT1980, Devin Doctorman, John T. Kusinek Jr., and SWGOH.GG. And of course, a big thanks to Pico for actually shedding some knowledge on an episode of Galactic War Report. Our listeners will be shocked.
They'll have to double check, make sure they're listening to the right show.
Right.
Okay, guys, thanks for helping me out. If people have any concerns about this, my username on our Discord server is Pilgrim. Just send one time.
Thanks for tuning in, and may the Force and RNG be with you.